Hello and good evening. I'm so glad you guys could join us. Today's podcast, we are, I have 3 of my 4 kids here today, and we're going to talk about what it's like to be raised in this worldview of Splankna and UpperDogs. So I just want to introduce you to everyone and let you know that Maya wanted me to make sure you guys knew that the first pancake always turns out a little wonky, and that's why the oldest child isn't here. But honestly, he's on a trip with his bride, so we're happy for him, but we miss him. So I'm going to introduce these guys. So Ethan, he is not with us here in Colorado today. Ethan is 24, and Ethan has he went to college, had a minor or undergraduate in psychology and a master's degree in leadership, and now he is a coach for esports in a college in Nebraska. And so that's Ethan. He's my second oldest. And then Maya is my favorite daughter and my only daughter. Maya will be 22 on Sunday. Maya, man, you've got a lot of things going on. Yeah. She is a volleyball coach. She is an RBT that works with autistic children, although you're kind of between that right now. And she's a personal trainer. So Maya's got a lot. And she's a new dog mom. Yep. So she's getting in the puppy stages. And then Levi here. Levi is the youngest. He's the baby. Levi is getting ready to start his sophomore year of college here in Colorado as a music theater major. Levi has a beautiful contratenor voice, and we get to be entertained a lot. And we're going to be sad when he leaves because no more singing in the house once he's gone. So these are my kids. Today we're going to just be talking about what it's like for them. They have only known Splankna their whole lives. I started doing it when Isaac was a baby. So they have experienced this their whole lives. My husband and I have raised them in a UpperDog worldview. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. But before we get started, Ethan is going to open us in prayer.
Yeah. All right, everybody ready? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing us all together here in this time and in this place to just chat about you and what you've done in our family and how we've been raised and just kind of explain what our lives have looked like. Father, I just pray that everybody listening, whether it's within a day or it's within a couple of years, would get something out of this podcast. Either grow closer to you, to their kids, to others, that they just have a deeper understanding of themselves. I just pray that this podcast episode would be a blessing to anyone who hears it, and that we would answer any questions that people might have, that we would say the right things, and that you would just kind of guide this conversation and this time according to your will. We give it all to you, and yeah, Father, I just pray that you'd be with us and give us eloquence and wisdom and help us to be sincere, honest, whatever people need when they hear this. I just pray that we would be able to give that to them through your wisdom. Thank you so much for this time, Father, and I just pray your blessing over it for each one of us that are speaking. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. Okay. So guys, what I did is I asked other people what they would like to ask you guys. So I'm just going to ask you some of these questions, and whoever feels like sharing, and, we're going to just do this conversationally. So the first question that people want to know is, what difference do you see between yourself and your peers? Like, having grown up here, can you see a difference? Is there a difference? Believing friends is mostly probably what they're curious about, but all friends is fine.
You guys want to start, or you want me to?
They want you to.
Okay. I guess whether or not I'd known it, most of my friends ended up being Christian, just throughout like high school, middle school. Interestingly enough, college was a mixed bag, but high school and middle school were definitely mostly Christian. And the interesting part is I didn't really know that straight away. there weren't really outward signals or signs that my friends had this same belief system as I did. It was only later that I usually figured it out through just conversation, like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? And they bring up church, and I'm like, oh, didn't even know. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Is just I didn't really they didn't really have an outward expression of their faith, and not that I really did either, but in a way, I guess just through kind of like a peaceful attitude. Like I went into assignments, tests, school in general, with just this kind of uh, I'm trying to think of the right word, kind of like a trust or a
Confidence, maybe?
faith. Yeah, confidence that like things were okay, and whether or not I did well on this test or class went perfectly or I was dressed the right way or whatever, it was like I could go into high school with this kind of, like you said, confidence that things were okay. And there was just a general peace around me, which, if you know me, which you guys do, I just kind of have that in general. It's just this peace around me, which I think comes a lot from kind of that upper dog mentality that if God's in control, there's not a whole lot that we really need to worry about. Um, and so I think there was just kind of that difference. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say you're especially good at that, though. That's part of your gifting, is that, or part of your like identity is you're so good at the faith aspect of it, and like kind of like that. Don't worry about the details because God's got the big thing, and so that's a unique. Maybe that's part of the upper dogs mentality too, but I find that you're specifically good at that.
Yeah, I think it definitely is part of that, though. Like, if you can trust that you have somebody watching out for you from above, life's a little easier. And so I think that's something I just kind of carried with me that I didn't really notice in my friends. Like, I'd see a lot of anxiety about smaller things, but also just in general anxiety, which I wouldn't say that I was necessarily like without anxiety, but I noticed that they had an excess of it, and they kind of just looked like the world so that I couldn't really tell the difference. And again, I kind of did too, but it was just something that I noticed outward. Like there was things I did that they, or things that I wouldn't do that they would do. Like I wouldn't curse. I wouldn't. That's probably one of the biggest examples because I hung out with a lot of people that we play games. They
Yeah,
curse.
you went to public school and you play video games, so you are
Yeah.
unique in that way for sure. The other
Yeah,
thing,
and
before we
yeah.
even go further, I just want to say, I was going to say this earlier, we are under no illusion that we are perfect, that we're the perfect family, that we're perfect parents or perfect children. We know that the only perfect being is God. We're just, so nobody has to disclaim that because we already know that. Like, we're not claiming perfect. We're just wanting to share some of what we have experienced. So, do you guys have anything to add to what Ethan said?
Yeah. I think the main thing that I've noticed growing up that made me feel different from my peers is that a lot of my peers, they were mixed. I think most of them weren't Christian or they just didn't act very Christian-like. But the main thing was that conflict was just common and there wasn't really forgiveness. Like forgiveness wasn't a practice that anybody else I've seen really practice, and it was like grudges and like everything just seemed very like petty, I guess, in conflicts where I always felt like I wanted to apologize because that's what I practiced at home, or I wanted to ask somebody for forgiveness and I seemed like I just more got like laughed at. And then I also just noticed that similar to Ethan, like if I had a problem or I was struggling with something, my family and my parents are really good at, oh, like, did you pray about it? And I would go through school in my head, praying before tests, praying before interactions with peers, praying before I went to that one teacher's class that I knew didn't like me. And it actually like, it became part of my like daily routine that I just couldn't understand how other people could go about their day without that having that crutch that I had. Because like, I don't know if I would have gone through it as well as I had. So I just think that like, I also had that peace, but I also noticed that, just forgiveness wasn't really common.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't really practiced. It was just a lot of people saying, it's okay, instead of like, I forgive you. And Yeah, dismissing it.
Or
Yeah.
just like not being your friend anymore. Like, okay.
Oh, so like
You know.
not reconciling either.
Yeah, so like one tiny thing happens and they're like, oh, I'm not your friend anymore. And then, and it's just like, there's no conversation. I think, I mean, that's not even just growing up. I think that's still as adults do that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of, I was trying to think of specifically what I noticed differences between Christian friends, because I feel like a lot of the times I was on the same page with my friends about things, but something that I thought of was kind of just the healing mentality was something that I noticed wasn't there sometimes when I'd be like talking to my friends and I'd be like, yeah, like I know these things have been healed in my life, or like stories of things being healed, and people are like, even my Christian friends are like, that can't be healed. It's a mental disorder. That can't be healed, And so just like, even with Christian friends, a lot of the times it's like you pray for healing, like that's what the Bible says, but like they wouldn't actually believe that healing was possible.
Yeah, there's no expectation.
Yeah. So.
Well, and that's kind of what we talk about in UpperDogs, is that kind of underdog mentality where you don't really like actually expect something to happen. And so, I mean, a couple things, like I think you expected it to happen because you saw things happen, because you experienced it too. Yeah. And so you've prayed over people and seen them healed, and you've experienced a lot of healing yourself, Levi had performance anxiety in high school, and having that healed now and studying this in college, and it does seem, but it's part of your gift and call from the Lord, and so it's like God wanted that healed in you. And like what you shared made me think of when you were in volleyball and you guys were all at the hotel, I think in Boston or something.
I was just thinking about that too.
Yeah, do you want to share?
Is it about the cursing thing?
No, it was, yes, but it was when your friends were like, wait,
are you Christian?
Or your parents are Christian?
Yeah, so, I was actually just thinking about that. So I had so my friends in volleyball, they noticed that I've never cursed, I don't cuss or anything. And one day they just decided to ask me, are you a Christian, or just are your parents Christian? Are you in a Christian family, or you Christian? And I was like, oh, I never said anything about being Christian, I don't think, but I was like, oh no, I'm Christian, I believe in Christ. And they're like, oh, okay, because most of them, they're like, well, our family is Christian, but we don't really believe in that. But it was they noticed something, and I don't know what else you want to add to that.
No, it just makes me think the parents that are listening, I mean, maybe we'll talk about this in a future episode, but how to help your children develop their own faith.
Yeah.
And because a lot of kids, it's not their faith. And you guys probably had a time where it became your own faith, where you sort of borrow our faith and you learn from us, and then there's a day or a time or a process where it becomes your own faith. I don't know if you guys remember when that happened. I wasn't planning on talking about that, but that is something where it's I feel like as you're growing, it was okay, I am going to try my best to represent God in your life so that you can look to me to see God. And then as you grow, I started pointing you more towards God. Mm-hmm. Remember talking to you and saying, because we used to call him Loving Levi, but I remember talking to you and saying, Levi, does anybody on this earth love you more than I do? And you were like, no. And I was like, but you know who does? And I said, God actually loves you more than I'm capable of loving you. And I feel like that was probably big for you.
Yeah, it definitely landed. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot of love.
Yeah, it is a lot of love. He loves you so much more than I do. So, do you guys want to add anything before I move on? Is there any thoughts that came to mind with that discussion?
Yeah, I think just like what Maya said, I realized a big difference is we just prayed about a lot of things. We didn't really think that anything was too small or too big. And I think a lot of people tend to lean on things being a little too small. They tend to see things as too small. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something you and Dad did really good about, was you can pray about anything. And he cares about things that you care about. And so if I care about finding a parking spot before a test that's close to the front so that I can make it to the test on time, then I'm going to pray about that. Yeah. And so just praying about everything was really big, because that's something we all did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too. Just I feel like growing up my entire life, it was like a habit that we had was you guys would tell us to pray about things when we would bring them up to you, and it was just like ingrained in my life. So it like passed on to when I went to school, and so it's just always there.
Yeah. I remember Isaac coming into my room and he goes, Mom, Ethan and I knew that you were having a hard night last night, so we prayed for you. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's so sweet. And so, yeah. And I think you guys keep saying like we would say, pray about that, but we also prayed with you when you felt like it wasn't just go pray about. Because see, one of my clients was saying to me, and this is something that I think I didn't even realize that you know how you learn or you teach things you don't even realize you're teaching. But she's like, people always tell me to go pray about it, but nobody tells me how to pray about it. Like, how do I pray about it? Like, and I was like, oh yeah. So we just kind of talked about like fleecing God, how we pray like, God, make it obvious, and like ask for things and stuff. But I guess without even realizing it, in a lot of ways, we were kind of teaching you guys different ways to pray too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how does this we kind of already touched on this, but you guys can share anything else that comes to mind. How does growing up in an UpperDogs family impact your faith, your prayer life, etc.? You've already shared some, but if anything else.
Yeah, I think, like I was just saying, I definitely pray over everything, small things, big things, whatever. And then it's not really expecting things to happen so that they happen. It's a really easy thing to think that that's how that works, is if I pray about something and expect it to happen, then it'll happen. Like you look at it, that like formula. That's one of our
other underdog thinking, or the aggressive dog thinking. Like,
right, where you can be like, oh,
force God's hand, but I do expect an answer, even if it's no.
Right, exactly. Like if you feel like you can bully God because you know the formula, you're like, oh, A plus B equals C. So now if I pray and now if I expect, then I'm going to get what I want.
Yeah.
And so it's like I learned to pray with not necessarily an expectation that something will happen or that I will get what I want, but the prayer itself is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think something that I've learned is just like growing up this way is that not only am I like an important member of like society as a Christian or my family, but I'm also my own individual person. And so I may have different gifts than Levi or Ethan or Isaac, and all of us are UpperDogs, and we all have our own like different unique abilities. But not only like are we knowing that about ourselves, but we're also able to see it of each other. And I think we've done like a great job in our relationships of actually learning how to like know each other, because I know that I want to be known, but now I know like what Levi is good at, and then I take from him and I'm able to learn from him. Oh, like he's so good at that. I want to take from that and be able to add that into my spiritual life. Or Ethan is just so biblically knowledgeable, and I want to be able to go to him with questions, and like, and I think that has really helped because we have been able to support each other. And I think that just goes into like, we're not just a Christian family, but it's like we've had conversations about each of us individually, and like, oh, how do you relate to that? It's not just like, we're like this as a whole, but we've had conversations after church, and it's like, what do you think? And then that person talks, and then it's, what do you think? And we just have been able to kind of be individuals that come together in a good UpperDog community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
I was just thinking about like the idea of like partnership, I guess, or like walking with God kind of thing. I feel like a close personal relationship with God is something that I just feel very fortunate to have. Like you guys like showed me what it was like for you guys to have it, and then like launched me into it, so that like I was able to like grow my own relationship with God, and so like I really do feel like I can pray like, God, I'm drawing near to you, and know that he draws near too, like that's what the scripture says. And so I feel I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, just like the idea of like just walking with God, and partnership in everyday life and being able to pray to him about anything or talk to him about anything, you know?
Well, it makes me think too, Levi, parenting doesn't stop when your kids graduate from high school or 18 is in the magic age, right? Like you guys still need coaching. There's things you haven't experienced yet that we have. And like one of the nice things is you guys respect us and you want to hear what we have to say. But like recently when you were saying you were feeling distance between you and God, and we were talking about that, and I was like, well, here's what I do, right? And I'd be like, when I feel distance from God, I remind myself it wasn't him who moved. He doesn't move. So I have to try to retrace and figure out when did this start and what happened. And I didn't tell you to go do it, but you did. Levi rides his bike to the reservoir and then puts up a hammock and spends his time with God. And you're very protective of your God time too, which I think is sweet. But you did that and you learned something and you were like, oh, that was amazing. And so like, that's one of the things I would encourage parents is like, parenting doesn't stop. Like you never stop. But the cool thing is when your kids get to be adults, you can learn from them, and there's certain things I love talking to each of them about differently because they have insight, like I love talking theology with Ethan and just like, talking about like the scripture and what I actually love that with all of you guys. You're all like, so that like what Maya was saying was like, that's what's so cool about after church on Sunday when we dive into what did you get out of the sermon, that there's different things. And then we learn from that too, right? Like then you're getting so much more. You're not just hearing one person, you're hearing from each other and you respect each other. And you're like, that everyone in this family is, we all have a, growth mentality, right? Mm-hmm. And so like that's so cool. But what's so cool is like when you become an adult and now it's like you guys are kind of my peers now. And so then when you share something, I can learn from you too. Mm-hmm. And that's really cool that you guys have grown into people who can influence other people, even your parents. That's pretty cool, right?
That is cool.
Like you're not the only one influenced by Levi and we're influenced by you. And like one of the things that's so great about Maya is that you're emotion dominant where no one else is. So you really open our eyes to see things that we wouldn't necessarily see if we didn't have you in our lives. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool. Anybody want to add anything before I move on?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I always add stuff at the end, so I have my little notes.
I love it.
Because otherwise I'll forget it all. And again, it's on something Maya said because she says a lot of good things. But basically, she was saying that what we do as a family is we also are all in the family. Like we're buying into that family structure and that family unit. And that's what's really important is the family unit is very strong and it's very intentionally designed by God to be a strong Christian community. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it's Christian, it's a strong community nonetheless. And so that's such a lost opportunity if you don't really lean into that. That's something that they were all talking about, is just the things that we all gain from being in the family is massive because it's a UpperDog culture in our family. Like everybody in our family buys into that. And we have that community with each other. We have that culture with each other. So it ends up feeling kind of like a church at home, which is, I think, what the family is supposed to be, what it was kind of designed to be.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's really just, what's it called? Consistency over time. Well, that's how you build that.
I will say I was pretty intentional with you guys when you were little. I don't know if you remember this, but I'd be like I remember doing this with you and Isaac before these two were born, and I'd be like, he's your best friend. Friends will come and go, but your brother will always be by your side. Do you guys remember me doing that? Like telling you like, and it's funny, you guys were such best friends. Like I would get emails from your school all the time being like, could you please write a book? Because I don't know what it is, but your kids just love each other. And you like, as soon as the day's over, you run and embrace and like walk out hand in hand. And But I mean, like that was something I felt that God told me to be intentional about. The people sometimes misread the scripture that said, it says something about friends are there for something, but a brother is there for adversity. And you can read that as when you go through adversity, your brother is there for you, not somebody you have to fight against, you know? So,
Well, that's what I was thinking is like a lot of people, they have this upper dog mentality, but it just stays with them, which is kind of the issue. It's like if you can bring it into your family, just consistency over time and build that culture in your family, anybody can start a culture.
yeah.
It's whoever has the strongest culture. And so it's like if you can bring that culture to your family, it'll transform it.
Yeah, that makes me think about like I remember like we come to each other when things get hard too, you know? Like it's not always easy. Like I was thinking about like there was one time we played a game, you know, like just a board game, and then something was getting under our skin, you know, and we were all like, I was emotional, like I ended up crying, which is crazy for me. But like, and like we were all heated or whatever, but like, and it was hard, but we all, that's like a core memory for me. It was a big deal, but like we all got together on the couch, you know, and we faced it together and we talked about what was actually happening, because it wasn't actually ever about the game. It was about like, I think that this person thinks this about me, or like deep down I've been believing this about you, you know, and like we were able to, it was really cool because nobody wanted to, but I think you and Dad like instigated like, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk through this, and we were all able to forgive each other and understand each other, and it was just really, really powerful moment, and stuff like that is like
Yeah.
cool.
I remember that was really good. I mean, we've had other times like that, but that's probably the most recent because it was just a few Christmases ago. But yeah, that was great because we also talked about those of you that are more introverted versus those of us that are more extroverted, and how we could do a better job communicating and letting the people who don't, you know, you and Ethan aren't likely to interrupt. Maya and or Dad, Maya, Isaac, and I are likely to, like, we think about conversations like running a marathon, and you just keep it going, you know, where you guys wouldn't necessarily interrupt unless we paused and asked. And so I was like, you guys work on interrupting, we'll work on pausing, you know. And so we kind of talked about, so I remember that was really insightful. And I know that you did get emotional, which you don't normally do, but that was so impactful for Isaac, because you were talking to him and then he responded so well. I was really proud of him too. So yeah, that was great. I really appreciate that you guys will even do that too, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay. So next question, how do you think your parents parented differently from others? Or maybe, I mean, we've talked about some of this, but like, or even an example of something that stood out, or something you've seen in the world and you're like, whoa, I'm glad my parents aren't like that, or something. But how do you think that we were different?
I think the main thing that I think of is that you and Dad weren't just Christian on Sunday mornings. You weren't just a Christian one day a week, which I think I've heard a lot of in some of my friendships when we're talking about like growing up Christian. And I think part of that is like, I've had so many of my friends say like, oh, I grew up being like forced into Christianity, or my whole life it's been like this obligation. And I was like, I've never felt that way. I've never felt like I was being pressured into it or forced or all that. And I think part of that is because they see their parents one day a week, like, we're going to church, and then that's it. And then the rest of the week they don't act very Christian. And then they're like, you should be a Christian. You should follow these. And they're like, why should I if you only do it once a week? So I think that part of that is like every single night, you and Dad would pray. Dad even had like a little jingle he would sing every night. Whenever there was a problem, it'd be like, pray about it. When I, thought there was monsters in my closet or under my bed, you said, you can pray about it. I was like, oh, I can? I didn't know that. Like, it's just like it was a lifestyle. It wasn't just like, we have this 1 hour a week. We dress up, we go to church, and we act perfect. It was just every day. It was like at dinner we talked about like our good thing of the day, our bad thing of the day, and like I think that a lot of that.
I'm just remembering his sharks.
Yeah. I just think that a lot of that, like I've noticed, is practicing daily, you know, turning to God, right? And then how we were talking about earlier, like then you started to let it transform into our own faith by being like, you can pray about that too. And then also then we started to be like, if there was something, because I still do this, sometimes I struggle to pray for myself. I'll come to mom and I'll be like, can you pray for me? Like about this, because I don't know what to say. And so not only have I learned to pray for myself, but I've learned to like ask for it, because they've proven so many times that it's not scary and that it works. And then I think just daily we worked on, we practiced gratitude. Every night, what are you thankful for? What is something good? And I think that seeing my parents being grateful when my friends are like, oh, my parents didn't buy me an iPad for Christmas. And then my parents are so grateful and they're like, look, we're going to go pray over this family. And then like that family is just so grateful for prayer. Or our parents are like, we're going to do this. And like I was learning to be grateful for like the tiny things that now I'm just like, I wake up every morning, no matter what's going on in my life, I can choose to be in a positive mood because I have a bed to sleep in. I have like a wonderful house, wonderful family, like all these things. And I think that is just like a daily thing that like has to happen over time,
Wow. That's encouraging, because the first verse I ever memorized was 1 Thessalonians 5:18, give thanks in all circumstances, like my sign over there says. And it's kind of cool because I don't think I intentionally did the grateful thing, but I have known that for me, being grateful is so key to my faith. Like it's the first verse that God ever drew my attention to when I became a Christian. And that's the thing, you guys don't have that experience of when I became a Christian, except for when it became your faith. But it's funny too, like you mentioned, like church on Sunday, that was my life. Like growing up, my stepdad would scream at us and maybe even beat on us a little bit all the way to church. And then we had to walk in and pretend and then walk out. And it was like, what? I don't, and I remember my mom saying like, I'm not going to go to church if you're going to act like this before we go,
Yeah.
And so I get it. I understand probably a lot of things that thankfully you guys, I think that's part of my motivation. I didn't want you guys to experience that either. So,
well, I don't think also that like you guys were like, oh, you have to be grateful. You have to be grateful. I mean, I work with kids, so I know a lot about them, but like they're very observant. Like everything you do is being watched, and like they're learning, and they like you do what people you look up to do. And so I think it's just observing how you and dad lived, and like just how you went about your day, just those things like you didn't even know were being watched, like like that, like you, like it's who you were as a person. It wasn't you were putting on an actor. Like you have to be grateful. It was you actually lived it. You lived it out. And then if there was any conflict, as a parent, like you're an adult, you apologized, which is a big deal to a kid when an adult apologizes to you, because as a kid, there's just this mindset that adults are always right, and then it's always the kid's fault. And so that was huge too.
Yeah, that's good, Maya. Thank you for sharing that. Sorry, my watch was going crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you guys say something.
Yeah, I can go. I think something that we were raised in was your identity isn't what you do. We were kind of raised with this idea. I guess it's sort of the general Christian idea that you can do something wrong, but you will not be wrong.
It doesn't define
you. If that makes sense. All right, and so you can do something wrong or bad, but then you yourself aren't wrong or bad. And so that's something that we were kind of hit home with at home was, if you have a fight with somebody, like your brother, your sister, whatever, you guys are, tension's high, everybody's mad at each other, and then you spend some time alone, you reconvene with them, it gets better, but it's like, you're not that bad person, you just had a bad moment, right? And I know Maya dealt with that a lot, where she would feel like she was a bad person, and she'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst and all this, and then we would, like, I know Levi and Mom did a great job with Maya, like, oh, you're not horrible, you're not a bad person, you're not a monster, you just did this thing that was awful, or you were mean, or whatever. And I don't know if that feels right to you, Maya.
Yeah. I
But
agree.
that's something that we just had in our household, was like, the things that you do that are bad or wrong, because you're living with each other, things are going to go wrong. But that doesn't define who you are. And we did a good job of not holding that against each other. We could be mean to each other, and then the very same night, it's like, okay, we're past that. You're still my sibling. I still love you. Which is really, like I said, just the largest Christian idea as well. That's kind of what God gives us as well, is you're not defined by your sins.
Mhm.
And in our house, that was the same thing. You're not defined by what you do wrong. You're still part of this family. We still love you, even when you do something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I feel like you guys said a lot that was really good, and I was trying to think if there was anything else I could add. But I was thinking about like forgiveness, you know, kind of off of what Ethan was saying. Like, you taught us and like walked us through like forgiving each other, you know, through certain things.
4-step apology.
Yeah.
We didn't just drop it and we're like, okay, we'll just ignore it until it goes away.
Yeah, I think something that like was great about the way you parented was like, I feel like like forgiveness and stuff like that, and not being defined by the ways you act and stuff like that, was just like a very like great example of God's love, you know. And it was it was just amazing. I like forgiveness and stuff.
Yeah, forgiveness and stuff.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's great.
I agree. Well, Ethan, since you just talked, you probably don't have any final thoughts on that subject, do you? It's okay if you
I
do.
can have one. Don't worry, I can have one. I guess just like what Levi said, your family has the potential to offer a lot of forgiveness and kind of make that the norm. And so, like what I was kind of saying, where your family can show God, like through his forgiveness, through his relationships, all that. Like, your family unit or group has a lot of potential to also share the gospel just to the people in your family, just with how you respond to your children, how you respond to your siblings, just all of that.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and you know, we're so used to us, like this is just who we are, this is how we are, that it always, I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but like someone will say, hey, like, oh, like even Alicia, she's like, the first time I came to your guys' house, I was like, these people are different. And she's like, at first she's like, is this even real? And then she's like, this is, I mean, I think because we're so in it, like even me, like I'll forget what it was like, which is a good thing, to grow up the way I did, because I'm so used to this that it's funny because somebody will be telling me a story of something they went through or they're going through with their family, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because I'm in this world now, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I did go through that, you know. And so it's like we get so used to this that we don't realize. But I think the thing is that you guys impact people, you don't even know you're impacting them, because it isn't just about us within our family, but it's how we go out into the world, you know. And so I get little glimpses of that in different things, like a letter from one of your bosses or one of your teachers, or a comment from someone or something like that, and I'm like, that is the glory of God. That is God working in you, and that is you guys letting God work in you, you know.
And that's really like the whole idea of UpperDogs, is creating that culture, whether it's just for yourself, but like I was saying earlier, the strongest culture wins out. That's how it's always worked. And so it's like, if one or two people, you and Dad, can build this UpperDog culture just within yourselves, then you spread it to your children. Then we have this very, very strong, cohesive, like Loctite culture within our family. It's in our minds, it's in the way we act, it's all of it, because that's just the culture we're raised in, and we bought into it because we learned that it's good. And then when we interact with people outside of our culture, the stronger culture still kind of wins. And so you have this now winsome culture that is also kind of infecting its way into the cultures around us, which is
We're an infection.
noticeable. It really is. And it's noticeable too. Like you said, we'll get people commenting on our family all the time, like, you guys are weird. Whether it's church or school or whatever. And we just show up and it's like, this is weird. But for us, it's a strong enough culture within our family that it's like, we're not going to be swayed by the worldly culture because our culture is stronger and it's better.
And that's a good point for parents that are watching, is like, build a culture in your family of love and acceptance and forgiveness, and it'll spread, you know? But the thing is, like one of you said, maybe Maya, I think Maya, like, you can't fake it. You have to live it in your own life. Like, when I was thinking about writing my book for parents, which I'm still in the process. I've got a lot of notes. I'm busy. Ethan's always. But anyway, when I think about that, I was telling Sarah, I was like, I think I just need to write Work on Yourself, because I started receiving Splankna and doing counseling around the time that Isaac was born. And I don't know where any of us would be if I hadn't done my own healing, because you guys don't know me before the healing, but you know what I'm capable of, because we studied the Enneagram together, and I'm an 8. So, but I know what I was like before, and then what I'm like now. Like, before God, I wasn't very empathetic or sympathetic. I would just be like, well, you don't like it, do something about it. And like, you create, a lot of things in me changed through my own healing. One of those is the compassion and empathy that I can share with people now, that I was hard on people. And so I feel like Splankna gives us this worldview of, like we were talking about earlier, like we know there's a reason behind everything. We don't need to label people as good or bad. We can say, a lot of times, I don't know about you guys, but I'll be like, what made you like this? What trauma is playing a part in like this kind of behavior? So yeah, I think that is, and since we're talking about Splankna, one of the questions that was on the website was for you guys. She said, my kids are ages 16 to 21, and they are reluctant to do Splankna with me. What advice would your kids, that's you guys, have for me in approaching them? Like, I know you guys have always grown up with Splankna being kind of a part of your lives, but it was never pushed on you. It was always offered to you. I mean, I guess when you were little, you didn't have a choice. It was like, I don't know what's happening, but we're going to do Splankna, But as you grew, it was always sort of, you got the choice whether or not to do it. Most of you made the right choice most of the time. But how would you, I don't know, can you offer some insight for this mom? She wants her teenagers, right? Maybe some reasons why you didn't want to do Splankna at times. And how do you think this mom could approach her children in a way that would make them more open to Splankna?
Yeah, I can start again. Do you remember, Mom, when you realized that I like Splankna?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember how that conversation went?
Yes.
So tell me what you remember of that conversation.
What I remember is you had something that you talked to me about in the car, and then you asked me to help you with it and said you wanted to do Splankna. And I was like, okay. And I remember doing Splankna and kept apologizing for how long it was taking, because your excuse for never wanting to do it before that was like, it takes too long and it's, whatever. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we're almost done. And like, I kept saying that. And then you interrupted me and you said, Mom, I like Splankna. I just didn't want to work on this.
Yeah, so that was my experience with Splankna and this definitely isn't everybody, but there is things that I didn't want to work on, and Splankna was an opportunity to bring light to something that I didn't want light brought to. And so that was kind of my experience, was like, oh, this thing has a potential to make my life a lot harder, and I don't want that. And so I was like, always staying away from that. And again, that's not everybody, but
that's
if you are one of those kids like me who doesn't want to work on something, I recommend that you do just work on it. It will make your life a little harder, but it is worth it, and it is the correct choice. Splankna is a great tool, and you probably know that. If you're in the same boat as I was, you know that it's a great tool. You know that it can provide a lot of healing. But it is hard to ask for help, and it is hard to bring something to the light that doesn't necessarily want to be in the light.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience. And I recommend that if you're in the same boat, just bite the bullet and do it. You'll feel a lot better afterwards.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing about it, if you guys aren't into the Enneagram, I apologize for this, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. Ethan is an Enneagram 5. So Ethan is a lot in his head. He doesn't open up just naturally, whereas like his older brother is like talks to me about everything, but Ethan never really like opened up. And when we started doing Splankna together, we started doing it pretty regularly from that point forward. And I think it's something that I will always be grateful for, because I got to know you on an intimate level that I don't think anybody else does, because of what came up in Splankna. And I remember that Mother's Day when you wrote me that card and you said, I love how close we've gotten. You're my best friend. And like even quoting it would bring tears, because I feel like without Splankna, you and I would have never gotten as close as we've gotten. But it took you being willing to face something you didn't want to face. And it also took you trusting me with that. And I hope that I have honored your heart and like really, that you've never felt judged by me in any way, that you just felt love, because that's all I had, you know. But clearly it has given us like, I think just a relationship that I don't know that we could have had without it. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. How about you guys? Any advice for a mom who's trying to, I mean, you guys have different reasons for when you maybe didn't want to do Splankna, or, yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think I was reluctant for quite a few years. And I was like, I don't like Splankna. And I think it's because whenever, like mom would say, oh, you should work on that, or oh, we can do Splankna. I was like, so you're telling me that something's wrong with me. And I hated the fact of being like, I felt like I was being told like, you're broken, and in my brain translated to, okay, so I'm just the worst and everybody hates me, which isn't what she was saying.
It's true, you know.
I took it as like, oh man, like you need Splankna, like something's messed up. And I was like that, you know, and like I didn't want to face that, because in my head I twisted it to like my position of shame, like, oh man, like I messed up bad enough that I need Splankna, or like something is wrong with me to the point where like I need it to be fixed. And so I think for me, it just, honestly, the only thing that really changed my perspective was time. And I know that's like, it was nothing that my mom did or nothing that anybody did to convince me that Splankna was good. I think that it just took time
and kind of keeping doing it.
Yeah. And desperation.
Yeah.
Because I think that I was reluctant, between probably all throughout high school. I was pretty reluctant. And then I think it was when I was in college, and I started to reach that point of like desperation. And there was a Splankna therapist in the small town that I was in college, and so my mom scheduled me with her, and I think it was kind of like that obligation at first, like fine, I'll go.
Shout out to Burgie.
Yeah, but I think that really like started to like act like I started to feel better, and I think it still even took like maybe half a year, it's about 6 months after that I actually started to look forward to it. And I think like every week I'm just like, oh, I can't wait. because I love the feeling of like, oh my gosh, like I know I can look back and be like, 2 years ago I was a whole different person before I got healed from this. And I just think the main thing was time. And then also like being able to learn like, I'm not like, nothing's wrong with me, you know, like, cause I'm still working on that in my sessions is like, I'm just like, I mean, it's my fault. And, you know, it's just cause something's fundamentally wrong with me. And my therapist is like, no, like that happened and that was unfortunate. And now you have that trauma response and that's what needs to be healed. It's not that you are wrong. And so I think that like, it just took time and, you know, and that's obligation at first.
That's part of what we learned through the Enneagram is that you're shame-based. So you tend to go there. So part of that is nature, part of that is nurture. Like some of it is. But you know what's crazy? Like listening to you, I'm like, well, here's a good example of where I dropped the ball. Like, you know, I'm so like intent on making sure you guys know everything. And I'm trying to think this. One of the things that I say to my children clients, which I apparently either didn't say to you or it didn't stick, is that Splankna is not here to fix you. It's not because something is fundamentally wrong with you. Splankna, when we do Splankna, it's help you become more of who God created you to be, to have more joy in your life, to be more content with who you are and happy in who you are. Mm-hmm. So I say that to all.
I think you did say that.
But it just didn't
stick.
Think okay, because I was like, I can't believe I never said that to you. I think that
was part of, you know, that brokenness in me was I didn't want to, it's kind of the same as Ethan's. I didn't want to confront it, but it was translated in my heart as like, like something is wrong with me. And to me, it was just like, anytime I was like, oh, we have free time, you want to do Splankna? I was like, I'm that bad that you think I need Splankna? Like, I took offense to it, even no matter how many times
so
I said
funny.
it. Yeah.
Because you know, once
it's like a shower. Let's go take a shower.
Once I was on a hike.
I smell bad.
Once I was on a hike with Isaac, and we were praying for a men's retreat, like we were there to intercede, and we were hiking up, and we got to the top of this mountain, and he goes, "Mom, we should do Splankna." I'm like, "Why? What's wrong?" And he goes, "Oh, we just haven't done it for a while." So he's like completely on the other end. But yeah, I could see where there was a time when
it was like multiple years.
There was that one time when you acted out, and I was like, I sent you to my office and said, "I'll be in there in a minute. We're doing Splankna." But it was so It was such a powerful.
That's probably where it started. No,
I know it's all my fault. Jerry Ann, that's what she needs to work on.
It became a punishment. We're doing Splankna now. No.
But it was because I couldn't figure out what the heck, like what was happening. And so we came in here, we did Splankna, and I remember I was convicted. I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder she's acting out. She's being tormented with these nightmares. And like, I was all like, oh, I would, you know, like I wouldn't even have like punished you if I knew, because I didn't think of Splankna as a punishment, but I could see where you would have. But that was the time when,
like, I walked out feeling so much better and happy and like, you know,
yeah, you felt better.
I needed more of a push.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, yeah. What were you going to share, Levi?
I don't know. I was trying to think. I don't know if it's helpful at all, but I was thinking about like, I think for me it was similar to Ethan, where there was things like I didn't want to talk about or I didn't want to face, you know, and then I think there was multiple times like during high school or maybe middle school where like I guess it's kind of like Maya too, where it's just like time was needed because I think I just let things settle into me so much that there'd be moments where I'd boil over and like explode. And I think what was really, really helpful about those moments is that when that happened, you would like face me head on, and then you would
you mean like this?
Yeah. But like I don't know. I remember like I think it's like the one time I ever remember us like actually like fighting, you know? And we were like fighting, and I just like so upset, and I don't know, maybe it's one of those like family secret things. Like I was eating myself on the inside, and then when I finally exploded, it was like we turned it into a moment of like, you turned it into a moment of like let's do Splankna, let's bring it to God. And so I have like multiple memories of different times where I don't even remember what we were fighting about, but like the I would like boil over or get really angry or like get super overwhelmed, and then just be like, you'd be like, let's do Splankna, and I'd be like, okay, fine.
I remember that because like I never yell at you because like I was telling Maya, we were talking earlier, like there's no point in yelling at you because
Because he becomes a puddle.
Yeah, which I don't like yelling anyway. But if somebody yells at me, I might yell back. But anyway, and plus I'm not perfect, obviously. I have a temper, but I remember what I said to you. I was like, Levi, you need to reevaluate your priorities or something. And then you just like, I was so sad for you because you were just like you said, that boiling point. And I was like, holy crap.
Well, it's totally what I needed too. Like, I distinctly remember that moment because I was like, and then you yelled at me, which is what I needed. And then I was like, and then you and then we let that settle for a bit. And then it was like, let's do Splankna.
Do you think maybe you want to work on that?
No, it was good. It's a fond memory.
I meant that. That's what I was like at that time.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
Think maybe
like, do you want to work on that? I was like, yeah. And it was great. So I mean, that's just how it worked out for me. It was like just timing. There'd be those things I was holding on to that were crushing me, and then when I couldn't bear it anymore, you were there to be like, hey, it's Splankna, let's bring it to God. And then it was great. So.
Yeah, and now you love Splankna.
Yeah.
Just like Maya.
I'm like, oh.
You're like, can I do it twice a week? And I'm like, no, I can't afford that.
More, please, more.
Well, and that's the other thing, like, for me, so if you guys have read UpperDogs, like, so in the beginning of their lives, it was a lot of going to Sarah early on. And then maybe not for you, but definitely for the older two. And then God convicted me, which I wrote about in UpperDogs, that I wasn't working on you guys enough, that I was being a hypocrite. And so that's when I started working on you primarily, and you would just see other people occasionally. And then we got to this place where we are now, where it's like, for me, I need to delegate. Like, and I remember asking you for a while, would you be willing to work with someone else? And you were like, no, Mom, only you. And then you eventually, like, I think you volunteered to be a demo for someone else, and you were like, oh, it wasn't so bad. Yeah. Do you remember that? And then you were like, okay, I could work with someone else. And so then that takes the pressure off of me as mom to try to fix everything. And so like you started doing that. And then Maya, I know you've tried different practitioners over the years, and now you both have someone you really love working with, and it's also good. And we still work together sometimes, well, you and I don't as much, but we keep meaning to, but you've just been so busy until recently. But like, and I still pretty much just work on UE. So, but Levi's volunteered to work on you since, he's taken.
I need my practice hours.
He needs his practice hours. You don't get any free passes just for being my children. So you still have to do your hours.
I have something quick I want to say for
sure.
Whoever asked that question. I think that like what I've been hearing from, me and Levi and Ethan, what we've said is, your kids better. And so I think if, you'll like, depending on your kid, you'll know whether or not they need that little push or if you don't force it, because sometimes, forcing it might feel like, a punishment or maybe, and so they might need more patience, but your teenagers better. And so I think that you can take pieces of what we said and apply that to their own personalities and their needs, because you might have somebody like a Levi, but you might have somebody like me or somebody like Ethan. And so I think that the main part is just patience. And I would also just pray about it. I would just ask God that he would give them a desire in their heart, or just that they would have some change in their heart posture toward it, or even in your own heart posture toward how you can represent asking them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as a mom, I guess the things I would say is, one, like being humble yourself, not being judgmental, no matter what they come, don't act surprised. Also remember what it was like to be their age. Don't act like you've never been there or you've never felt that. Like, they don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. Make sure they know that you're for them, and like, you really just want to help them. You just want to, you really just care and love them, and you want to see them like more like happy and full of joy and peaceful, and like that Splankna can offer that. And so I think like really just like Maya said, pray for sure that God will give you opportunities, and then approach them as like, because you love them, because you care about them, because that this makes you feel better too. And and then when you're there with them, like just make it a safe place. I mean, I've had a couple kids that when we sat down to do Splankna, they were not wanting to say what it was. They were not wanting to reveal. And part of it was, I think they were trying to protect me. And I'd be like, okay, well, trying to kind of figure, the first one, with that kid, it was like, I kind of knew because God had already been talking to me about it. And then he goes, how did you know? I was like, well, you have a parent in heaven and he's been talking to me about this. And it like went really smooth. The other one, in this situation, the enemy was just really lying and saying like something was a sin that wasn't a sin. And I had to like, once it finally came out, and it took time and patience, I was like, oh man, that's not a sin. And like, I was just, man, was I mad at the enemy for that, and then upset that it went so long with this person thinking what they were doing was wrong when it wasn't. And so even that, like just being, definitely relying on the Holy Spirit, but also if your kid knows you love them and they know you're for them, and you offer a safe space, and Splankna can be that sometimes. And like if I'm testing them and I get the emotion loneliness, I don't try to pretend that I know or try to figure it out. I say, tell me about that, and let them have an opportunity to talk. And I might offer things and I might be wrong, and that's okay. I'm just like, but I also, I don't really, I've shared with these guys a lot of the struggles in my own life, the traumas in my own life. And so I'm transparent. They can then be transparent too. Would you guys agree with all of that?
Yeah.
And Ethan, I know you got something to say.
Do I?
I can feel it.
I was gonna say, I think what Isaac would say if he was here would talk about like present Splankna as a tool. I know there was times Isaac would talk about where there was something specific that he was like, oh, what I'm doing right now, or the way I'm acting or whatever isn't okay. I want to work on this. And it'd be like, oh, Splankna's a tool. I can work on this right now. You were telling me about that moment when he's like, oh, we need to work on this. And you're like, all right, let's do it.
That moment was similar, like, but different than you, because Isaac and I are both 8s, and we're both, we conflict, and we okay with conflict. But we were sitting on the couch like this, and we were having a disagreement, and he was making his point, and I was like, okay, but I don't. And then I decided to give him a little, like, say, okay, I can see your point. And he goes, see, Mom, I just make this one little point and you just flipped sides. And like, I felt, whoo, the monster and the hide coming out in me. And I was like, you are sitting a little too close to me to talk to me like that. Not that I ever hit him, but and he goes, and I said, this right here, this is not okay. Like, I'm trying to have a conversation with you, and you get all like superior and know it all, and you are so dogmatic, and you won't even like you won't even give a little. I was just giving a little. And he goes, you're right, Mom, this is a problem. I need help with this. I do this in my other relationships. And he's like, we need to work on this. And I'm like, okay, well, let's work on this. And then we came back to the office and worked on it.
So I think if you can just present Splankna as a tool, like, and if the kids understand that, they'll be like, oh, I need to use this tool to work on this something.
Yeah, it really depends on the kid, like Maya was saying.
For sure.
Figure out, like, all 4 of you are different. It takes time. And I parented you differently, and I approached you differently when it came to Splankna,
Yeah.
But yeah, So no, that's all very good. I hope that's helpful to the person who asked the question. I'm going to ask you one final question. For what piece of advice would you give parents who are wanting to raise kids to have strong faith to walk in authority? Like, what do you think children really need from their parents in order to believe in God and to believe in themselves to walk in their authority? Or is there anything you've experienced that you think parents would need to know?
I think just back to
A lot of words.
like, you have to be the example. You have to live it out. So I think the first step is to reanalyze yourself. And like, are you in tough moments turning to prayer, or are you like fostering like Christ-centered relationships in your children by having a Christ-centered relationship in yourself? And I think that's the first step.
Well, and you're not going to do it perfectly, right? Because you guys have seen me go to panic when I could, and I'll always be disappointed in myself. I should have stayed strong and stood in my faith, but I just like panicked and freaked out. We're all going to do that sometimes.
But you're honest about it.
Right. That's true.
So part of that is like, she's honest about like, I'm not perfect. And like, I mean, I remember it being a big deal when I was a kid when she would apologize to me. I'm like, whoa, you're the mom. Like, you're supposed to be right. And so I think just, like being humble and like realizing that they look up to you, and then also that kids are smart. You can just be honest with them and you can tell them like, I messed up. I'm trying. Sometimes I don't always pray, but I want to pray more, and like show them that you also have that desire, because they will pick up on that really fast.
That's good. And I think like that shows them that if they fail or if they don't do it perfectly, it doesn't mean, oh, I've ruined everything.
And they don't have to hide it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Boys.
Are you looking at me?
Either one of you.
Your screen froze for 1 second, so you were all just like still in the middle of talking. I was like, I don't know if they're looking at me or Levi. And then you unfroze, and all three of you were looking at me. So I think that's my cue to go.
Kelly.
I think we kind of touched on this a little bit. But basically, you can't give something you don't have. Same thing as what Maya's talking about. You need to always be working on yourself. There's no stagnating in what we're doing. There's no finish line to what we're doing. If at a certain point you stop working on yourself, you stop trying to improve yourself, then you are going in the opposite direction. It's like inaction is still action. So that's kind of the way I see it, is like, you have to be working on yourself. If you're trying to give peace to your home and you don't have any peace, you can't do that. You can't create out of nothing. And so it's like you have to, whatever you feel like is lacking in your house, whatever you feel like you want there, is something that you have to be able to find in your own life, cultivate in your own life, which, like Maya was talking about, that's a lot of prayer, that's a lot of time with God, that's doing whatever you need to do. But if that's something you're passionate about, if there's something you specifically want to bring to your household, to your kids, to your relationships, whatever, then you got a whole Bible worth of resources to try to figure that out. And you're definitely not in it by yourself either.
And don't think,
even if you think you are,
don't think of it as like you have to do that perfectly right from the get-go. Like, it's a journey, right? Like, make a 10% change today, and then just like set realistic expectations. Like, you can't expect that, okay, all of a sudden now I'm going to do everything perfectly. That's setting yourself up for disappointment and failure. But just start making little changes that are going towards what Ethan's saying, is like, spend a little more time in prayer, pray with your family. We've done all kinds of stuff. And like, Maya makes it sound like we were consistent. I don't know that we were that consistent. I'm glad that's how you remember it. But I feel like there were times where it'd be like, oh my gosh, we haven't prayed with the kids this week, but we tried really hard. But we would also do different things. Like, remember when we did the circle prayer? I read that book, The Circle Maker or whatever. And so we like walked in circle in the house and we prayed that way, and like we've done all kinds of different things, and like, what do you guys like? And but like, yeah, I just wanted to add to that. So sorry.
And the last thing I'll say is just don't be ashamed of your faith. I know that's something that somebody much greater than me said somewhere in the Bible. But basically, like, if you're ashamed of your faith, like Maya was saying, your kids will pick up on that. It's not something that you can build a culture on as a faith that you're not willing to exercise or use. And so if you aren't using your faith, if that's not something that you are explicit about using in your household, then you don't have any sort of a culture there. You can't build like an entire culture out of something that's hidden or secret. And so that's something too, is even though you're working on this thing by yourself, it also needs to be something that is explicit around you as well.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think you should invite your kids into the things that you're doing, because like, I don't know about the consistency or whatever, but like, I mean, I felt like I was a normal kid and then be like, all right, guys, we're all going to get in the car. We're going to drive over to this family. We're going to pray over their baby. And it was like, okay, like I have no choice. And I think like inviting your kids along to those things, like it's so impactful because like I said, they're learning so much. I don't even know how old I was then, but like I remember it, and I remember being like, wow, like this is so long. But I also remember like just like seeing the difference between how my dad prayed and my mom prayed, and then one of my brothers prayed. Well, that now I'm encouraged. Now I want to try praying out loud for somebody, and like just inviting them to those things. And then even like as I've gotten older to an adult, somebody I know got in like the bike accident, and my mom invited me along to go over and pray with them in the hospital. And I was like, I didn't need to be invited. There was no reason to invite me. And yet, like, I think just inviting your kids along, they're not going to be a hindrance. They're going to be an addition. And also, then it's going to impact their life, and then they'll grow up wanting to do that.
That's actually something I'm going to write about in the book. Bring your kids along.
Because I said that? No, I'm just kidding.
Now, yeah.
I know we're writing the whole book for you right now.
Well, I mean, I say that to a lot of people. Bring your kids along, invite them along. Like you were under no obligation to pray, but you were invited to pray. Mm-hmm. I wanted you to see God move, and that baby was healed of her cancer.
Mm-hmm. Well, even this, you invited us into this.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
When we all said no, and then you dragged us into it.
Terrifying.
But like, I mean, I'm learning so much,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have something like that?
Yeah, I guess it kind of tags off of what Ethan said, where it was kind of like, I don't remember what you said, but I knew it related somehow. But it was just the idea, like, I was thinking about, like, you guys, the way that you communicated to us wasn't like we were children, like, I feel like there's a level of respect there where it was like, I didn't feel like I was just a little kid, or it didn't feel like I was less than anybody, but I was like fully involved, which is kind of what mine was saying too. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, just like the way that you would tell us about your faith, mm-hmm. I think some of the most impactful memories I have for like being very little was like when you would tell us about how you didn't know how to be a mom and you were afraid, but you prayed about it and you prayed that God would teach you and show you. And I'd be like, well, you're the best mom ever. He totally did that. Like, that's so cool, Yeah. And then, or like hearing stories of like how you and Dad grew up and the families that you came out of and the ways that you moved here. And then I think about, you tell me about how many of our relatives or not even relatives would live in our house at different times. And be like, how many people lived in our house at what times? Like, I don't remember them. Like, what's going on? And just like that level of hospitality that I could see through the stories, and like seeing how you helped people when like you came here to Colorado and then you'd helped other people to, do the things that they needed or like help them through different life struggles and stuff. And I could see that example and you would tell us about it. And it was, I don't know, I guess it was like you were inviting me in to enjoy what you were enjoying. Like, God helped me to do this, or like, these are the people that we helped, and like, I was fully involved in that because you would tell me about it, so.
Yeah. That's cool. So sharing, like just that's one of the things I was going to say too is, but you said it, so that's so perfect. It's like I would share with you the miracles that I would see, like the people healed in my sessions, or like the angels on the roof at the retreat.
And that
like,
stuff would make me go like, whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I'd be like, I always was like, oh, I got to tell those guys, they're going to love this, you know, and I love sharing that stuff with you, because sometimes when you're little, or even as a new Christian, like you have to borrow from what other people experience until you experience yourself. Like when I first learned Splankna, I had done a lot of sessions with Sarah for me and Isaac, and probably Ethan too. And I started doing Splankna myself. I would share stories of the healings that Sarah saw with her clients, because I hadn't had them for myself yet. And so then I would be like, oh yeah, so she worked on this person and this happened. And I'd be like, so I bet it can happen for you. Let's try, you know? And then eventually I started having my own stories to share. And then now that can also be true in a parent-child, you know, experience of like, you know, you at college and like calling me and we prayed together. And then I was like, Levi, you can stand in authority in this place and you can pray this way. And like, knowing that you're going to do that and you're going to, you know, trust God in all of that. And so, yeah, I love it. I mean, I love seeing you guys grow into little powerhouses yourself, you know, you're like, yeah, I prayed over someone today, or you know, it's a great. And like, there's a lot of ways to do that without even, being, like all, you know, you don't want to like draw attention to yourself. Like scripture says, like, don't go to the corners and pray so people can hear you, but you can do it in little ways. Like Ethan was saying earlier, like just with Ethan's kids that he coaches, I don't know what all happens there, but I know 100% that you are influencing them in a good way because of who you are.
Yeah.
You know, and like Maya with her children, like when I hear the stories and how much love she has for these kids, even when they bite her or pull her hair out or whatever, it's like, that's what I always wanted when you were little. I wanted people in your life that would love you like Maya loves these kids. And like, I know that she doesn't know the impact, but if a negative person, if somebody treating you badly can have an impact, can't somebody treating you with love, even when you're not being lovable, have an impact? Like, what impact is Maya having on these little kids that she's loving so well? And like, just knowing that's part of the UpperDog, knowing that you have an impact. The Holy Spirit will lead you and walk you into these amazing moments. And like, I love that I know that you guys are in partnership with God, and that wherever you go, and you may not do it every day and you may not do it perfectly, but I know that God will give you opportunities and I know that you will take them. And that's like, I mean, I don't even have words. I don't even have words. It's just amazing. So, well, we are going to close now. Do you guys have anything you want to add before we close? Any thoughts?
No notes. No notes.
No notes.
I wrote
No
them all.
notes. All right. Well,
No notes.
I hope if you guys are willing and if people like this and if they have more questions for you, we could do this again sometime. Might have more of you on Zoom when you're in college and stuff. But you're not sad.
I'll be here.
Maya will be here. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us, and thank you for all your insight. And I just love you guys so much, and I appreciate your willingness to share. But I think that's that. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
woohoo, Splankna.
Cut.